Hi class, we're going to be making our art project today, and in your bag of supplies, gave you a stack of 3x5 cards, and I know I have some at my house, but I cannot seem to find mine, so I'm just going to be using, I found an envelope, and I'm going to just cut that in half so that it is about the size of a 3x5 card. But if you cannot find your 3x5 cards, you can really just use any piece of thicker paper. So I just made my own. And we talked a little bit about making a very simple design as your outline. You want it to be something that you are interested in, that you're not going to mind working with for a while, and you want to make sure that it's simple enough that you can cut out. So I think for mine, I am going to make my example be a book. And so I'm going to turn mine, and I'm going to have it look like the book is open. And so I'm going to have the top part, I'm going to have it come in a little bit, and then there's that little part with the spine if it's open, and then I'm going to have it come out. I'm going to have it like that. And just a really, simple shape that, and it's not perfect, but that's okay. And I don't really need to add any more details to it than that. Later on, I can come back to each drawing and I can, add the crease, and I could add some words in there, but I've got the nice shape of my book. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And if you mess up, you can always make another one. Doesn't need to be perfect. And if you find that as you're making yours, your choice of shape is just too complicated to cut out, then you might pick a different one. And in class, we'll be working on this while we're doing a little bit of read aloud later on. So you'll have lots of time, but if you want to work on it in your spare time, this is a really fun art project that you can do over and over, and you can make it as complicated as you want or as simple as you want. So I've got my shape, and I'm going to put my piece of paper. You can use any kind of paper you want. It could be big, it could be small, but you want to decide which direction you want to have it. And I think for this one I want to have it kind of like a landscape setup. So I'm going to have it side by side. And this is where you have a choice. You can either use your marker that I gave you to do the outline, or if you want to have a pencil, you can do that. It's really up to you, whatever you are more comfortable with. But you're going to start by deciding where you want to put this on the page. And so I think I'm just going to have my book like that. And actually, I think what might be helpful for you is if I pull my camera back a little bit. So I'm going to move it back so you can see the whole page. Alright, there we go. So you can see pretty much the whole page, and you can see the little corner of my computer there. I love it. So I'm just going to hold with one hand, and then I'm going to trace around the edge of my book shape. And this is where if you want to do it with pencil, you can, but it really doesn't have to be perfect. So, if you just want to go for it, you can, and you just hold it and go around. And it's nice to do it with a 3x5 card or a little bit of heavier piece of paper, because it does give you that nice edge that you can trace. And then when you lift it off, you've got your blank shape. Now you have two choices at this point. You can either continue to trace and just keep overlapping it, or if you want to take a moment and start to decorate what's in that one shape, you can. And there's really no right way to do it. So I think for this one, I am going to just start to decorate it. And I think what I'd like is for this first book to have have the cover color kind of showing through a little bit. And so I'm just going to go ahead and grab my orange marker. And sometimes with my books, I can see a little bit of that color along the edges of it, depending on how bright that is. Because the pages usually cover most of it, but sometimes you can see a little bit. And so I'm just going to go around that. And then now that I've got that part done, I want to go back and I want to show that when the pages are there on the upper part, that they are open. And so I want to make it look almost like there's, you know, when you look at the sides of books, there's those lines on there. And so I'm going to just make those go, make kind of like an arched part to them. And the more that I draw this and the more that I practice it, the more I'm going to get comfortable with making the edges. And then I like in the book where when you're looking at a book, there's that crease part. And of course, you know, if you're drawing a popsicle, if you're drawing a snowman, if you're drawing a cat, whatever you're doing, you're adding those details in. And I think for this first part, I do want to add some words for my book. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add in Go Hawks. Fifth grade. Rocks. Oh, that almost kind of rhymes, huh? And I could keep, you know, and then maybe I pretend like there's more writing, but they can't read it. And I'll put that in there. And again, I could spend, you know, as much time as I want to on that. Or I could come back later and fill this in at the end. But then the next time you trace it, you want to have it at a different angle or a little bit off. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it kind of like this. And the part that's covering what you already did, you are not going to draw over. So it's going to make this really neat overlapped look happen. And I'm just tracing, being really careful not to go over the part that I did. And this is where some students really just like to have their pencil. And then I'm going to lift it up and see how I did. Yeah, and see how because we didn't trace over that part, we can kind of see that it does look like it was behind there. And so for this one, I just like the idea of decorating as I go, so I'm just going to go ahead and make my line where the pages would be there. Make that a little bit thicker on that. It's at a different angle. I think I'm just going to use a different color. Maybe I'll use my red here. We'll pretend that it's got, you know, red edges. And maybe for this one, I might want to make it a picture book. So maybe I might go back later and add some details to it. And just to give myself that reminder that I have that idea, maybe what I'm going to do when I do this page is I'm going to have a little box within this book for the thing, and then pretend like there's a little caption you can't quite see, and maybe pretend that that text goes out. So, you know, you can be pretty creative with it. And I can always go back later and add more details, but I'm ready to trace my next one. And so that's just really what you're going to do with this art project. You're just going to keep tracing over and over and over and making sure that you're not tracing over the ones that would be on top. So I'm going to add another one. Let's say that I have it like, maybe like this. And I think what I'll do is I'll just trace a couple so you can kind of see what it's going to look like when I haven't decorated them. And sometimes students like to make a second shape, like if they have a whole bunch of, like in this case, open books, you might want to make one that's a closed book. Or if you have a whole bunch of popsicles, maybe you make one that's like an ice cream cone or something. You know, but you add your details in and you decide when you want to do it. And you just keep tracing, and notice how I'm not covering over the ones that I've already done. So you're getting that shape, so that's where you need to be careful. Like, see there? I'm not going to cross over, and then when I look, there's already a book there and there, but there is this tiny, tiny bit of this corner that I can fill in. And so it's starting to get that really, really nice look of having all these things stacked. And as I keep going, I'm going to fill in the whole page, and it's going to look really neat having everything filled in. So I will stop there, but I will show you guys my finished one a little bit later so that you can see what it might look like. But just remember that, you know, I'm doing this really quickly, and you guys can take as long as you'd like to make it very detailed. And I might think, okay, well, I really like the way that this looks, so maybe I'm just gonna, you know, fold it in half and that's my closed book, and then maybe I even trace one You know, maybe there's one that's just sitting there that's just kind of closed off to the side. And so it's just kind of fun. Like, you guys can be really creative, and this is one of those art projects that every year I look forward to because students just make something really neat. I hope you are inspired, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. All right, bye.